how do we get white women to understand the importance of their allyship and understand that stepping up and dismantling racism does not, in fact, take away from the advocacy of gender equity? And how do we also push the dial and move away from a small L liberal everyday acts? Like, I donated and I've befriended someone who is Black or of color. And how do we move away from those more tokenistic or performative forms of allyship and have white women come on board as active allies?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I feel like we've been talking about, I feel like there's this empathy gap between white women and women of color, Indigenous women. And I think that part of this is it can be yes and, right? We realize that, as you know, if you identify as a woman, that every woman experiences some type of discrimination in the workplace, but understanding that there also is proximity to power. Some have less oppression than others, right? And so what would it look like if we lift it as we climb? So if white women are more represented in the C-suite, they have, there's more women CEOs, those sorts of things. Yes, there's not enough of white women, but it's possible that we could actually move this needle together. We actually need their support in this way. And again, it's not enough to call yourself an ally if no one is benefiting from your allyship. So I think those acts, those everyday acts, is yes, it can be donating. Yes, it can be adopting a brown or Black child, but it can also be, right, reading books like ours. It can be going to events that are centered around women of color. I think part of this is relationship building, in my opinion. If we understood each other on a human level, we would show up for each other in a different way. So I feel like if more white women were in spaces with women of color to learn more, to listen, educate, then it's easier to activate. But if you're not listening, if you're not educating, then it's really hard to activate, right? And then you get upset when it doesn't turn out the way you thought it was. Good intentions aren't necessarily helping anybody, right? So we have to think about that impact. And I think if we're building relationships, if white women would actually put out the olive branch and get to know women of color, people of color in a real way, they'll know how to show up. They'll know that allyship is not a one size fits all. How you want a white woman to show up for you may be different than how I want her to show up for me, but we're not going to know that until people start to really engage and engage and interact. Because McKinsey put out a study not too long ago and asked white women, how many of you see yourself as allies to women of color in the workplace? 80% said they saw themselves. When they asked women of color, how many of you see white women as allies? Less than 20%.
Right.
So there's a disconnect between people calling themselves and actually someone being a beneficiary of it.